Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. Are you evaluating your career in real estate? Feel like you're ready for a fresh start? Or ready to take your career to the next level? This is your podcast. Welcome back to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. I'm your host, Meredith Fogle, here again with Tina Nader. So Tina is just back from a little respite at the beach, looking rested and glowing, as I'm sure you can tell. And we were just actually talking about the fact that when you're on vacation, you're not on vacation in real estate, which could be a whole separate podcast. But today what we want to talk about is this new normal, as I'm calling it, that we're finding ourselves in right now. We are in a shifted market, and we're in a market that many agents have never been in before, and certainly our clients are not used to. So we want to give you a few tidbits for how to keep your mindset where it needs to be, to make sure that you're staying in a place of as much balance as we can be in a career like this one. And we're keeping our clients calm, cool, collected, and certain that we're serving their needs. And I have some things that I want to share with you. Tina's got some things she wants to share with you. So we're going to look at it both from the perspective of us helping our clients, our buyers and sellers, and then helping ourselves maintain longevity and leverage in this career, where sometimes in a market like this one, it feels like a bit of a slog. And interestingly, so much of what I was doing back when this market existed, way before this latest wave happened, is coming back to me. And then there are innovations that we're bringing to the table to really help to innovate what we're doing for our client services and for our businesses in general, to kind of like push things forward and bring things into the realm of AI and using tech to help us create efficiencies around all these things. So lots to talk about today. So first, before we dive into all that, Tina, catch us up. So since the last time we talked, let's see, you had come back into like a flow with a lot of transactions coming to the table, lots of listings, things under contract, and then, there have been some little bumps in the road. So let's talk about let's show the warts first today. So tell the audience, what are the things that felt like the most challenging things for you within the past couple of weeks?
I have to say, one of my clients was really looking forward to purchasing a townhouse, and what happened was there was a big buildup to it actually being open for us to view, and it was priced really low, so obviously that created a lot of frenzy, and a lot of people wanted to see it. You could see in showing time all the bookings that first day, but we got in early, and we were getting our offer together, and I mentioned to her that obviously it's best to go in with the least amount of contingencies and the highest offer, because the value of this home is a lot higher, and you're going to see that especially in our neighborhood, where when something's priced low, you tend to get several contracts and they build the price right back up. So we talked about it and went back and forth, but at the end of the day, she decided that she was going to put in two contingencies. One was the financing contingency, although I will say I spoke with her broker and they told me that they were solid and okay, and they didn't need to have it.
You mean her lender?
The lender, sorry.
Okay.
I meant the lender, and they said that they were completely okay and they didn't need to have it, but she really felt more comfortable having it. So, we did have the conversation of, that could potentially be the reason where this house could fall through, but she insisted it being there, and then insisted on a home inspection, which I'm seeing more and more of.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it with my listings as well. I mean, even a condo, I have people asking for home inspections now,
Yeah, so I'm curious, and this might help the audience too, because I know for the person listening, you're probably having a lot of the same conversations with your clients right now. Many of my coaching clients, we talk about this on our coaching calls. How do we help the client help themselves when we know what they're doing might not be in their best interest? They're feeling protected by something that actually might not be the protection that they think it is. And how can we really show them what the options are? And really that's our job at the end of the day. And I know you did this, you gave her all of the options, and then she chose to put the contingencies in. So I want to do, just for fun here, because I love doing this stuff, let's do a little role play on this. So in this case, I'm going to be the agent, and Tina, you be that client, okay? And let's walk through and try as much as you can to recollect how she actually reacted with you. So let's say we're like at that point now where we're putting the offer together. And you and I'll be you, I've said to you, so you know this is going to be a competitive situation. We've already got word that there's a deadline on this. They have an offer in hand already. They've got some more that they say are coming in. So, and the offer that is in hand, it's got a deadline on it. So we got to move fast. We got to make sure you're as strong as possible. So let's talk about how to do this. Obviously, we need to go higher than asking. And of course, like the fewer contingencies, the better, because that's less risk for the seller, and likely the one that they will choose is going to be high and contingency free. So talk to me about what you're thinking, and we'll pretend like price is already figured out. They went up as high as they're going to on price. So let's really focus on contingencies here. Stepping back into the role play. So let's talk about what you want to do in terms of contingencies. What are you feeling like you want to have as far as anything contingent?
Well, definitely the home inspection. I could see that this home has actually had a lot has not been updated.
Okay.
You can tell when you walk in, you can see a lot of damage, and you can see some, interesting things on the ceiling that need to be looked at, whatnot. And so we just definitely want to do a double check. The wood on the deck is probably going to have to be replaced. The HVAC is old, but these are all things that I want to know what I'm going in for.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm, because I am going to offer over ask, but I also have to pay a large amount to change the carpet, to refinish the floors, to do the cabinets. I think the person before probably, I'm not exactly sure what happened to the cabinet, but I see damage all throughout all the bottom of the appliances. I'm not sure if that was done with something. I don't know what it was done with, but all the cabinets have peeled back to plastic. So those things have to be done. Right. And that adds to the cost. So I feel we need a home inspection so I can figure out how much more I need to put into this house along with asking over.
Gotcha. Okay. What's your total budget for this as a project?
I guess I wouldn't want to spend more than 45 total.
45 to do the work above what you're spending on the house. Okay. So from what we can see, so we know there was the owner had a wheelchair, which is what all the damage at the bottom of everything is. So we know we're going to replace the refrigerators. You're going to redo the kitchen with new cabinets at the very least. Obviously it needs paint. It's going to need flooring, some carpeting, the wood rod on the outside we talked about. Looks like there's some stains on the ceiling. We know the roof age, right?
Yes, the roof looks great, actually. Okay. The roof was done like 5 years ago.
Right. So that
the master bathroom needs to be redone.
Okay, well, needs to be, or you want it to it?
Primary. No, it was missing the shower, and then the tub was completely stained and rust and some other stuff. Okay. So that has to be.
Okay, so it sounds to me like this project already, from what I know, and we know inspectors are not they're not there to give you improvement estimates, right? They're there to look for things we can't see. So looking at what we can see, just using my math, I think you're looking at more than $45,000 already. So do we really want to make an offer on this house?
I do like the house.
Okay.
I'm hoping that I can keep it at 45, picking, the right carpet and maybe refacing the cabinets rather than installing new ones. So I was kind of looking at that option as well.
All right.
I am painting it. I know it needs new carpet, but the carpet's in the basement and it's in 3 of the bedrooms.
Okay, and HVAC, that's old. All right, so that's like a $20,000 to $30,000 cost depending on what you get. So again, I'm just wanting to put this to reframe this for you, because do we even bother to make an offer on this? Because again, it sounds like this might be a budget buster for you.
Well, the HVAC is still working, so at least it doesn't need to be replaced immediately. Okay. But I wanted to see how much life it had. Okay. So
well, the inspector's not going to be able to tell you that. The inspector is going to tell you how old it is and what the usual usable life of that system is. We can find that out. We can pull a serial number and see how old it is for you right now. The reason I'm walking you through this is, here's what we know. If you ask for a home inspection and the other person doesn't, the other person gets the house. Okay. So I guess it depends. How much do you want this house? And also, what is the inspector going to really be able to figure out that you can't already see? that
Okay.
might be a deal breaker for you? And is that enough to make you not buy this house? So what are the things that you can't see right now that you want an inspector to help you figure out?
Termites, number one.
Okay, well, you get
on
pest
those.
inspection. You don't need
Yeah.
an inspection contingency for that. What else?
Mold, if there's any mold.
Okay.
If there's other things that I need to be aware of that I just don't see, like is the sump pump working?
Okay.
You know, just things that I wouldn't know to look at.
Okay, so if there were mold,
I would be
that's
scared to buy a home without a home inspection. 25 years ago when I bought my first home,
Okay.
I had the home inspection and I just feel more comfortable knowing what
Gotcha.
I'm getting into.
Okay. All right, I just want to walk you through it because what we know is in a competitive situation, you're very unlikely to be able to purchase a house with a home inspection contingency.
Okay.
But we're in a market where things are getting less and less competitive, so this just might not be the house.
Okay.
Like, how about we find something that is priced at or slightly above market, then you can get a home inspection. I'm not saying we don't try an offer on this,
Okay.
but I am saying we just really need to be reasonable and rational about what a home inspection is really going to find for you
Okay.
and what your budget is, because this is a house that an investor is going to buy, or somebody who does not care and understands if they do all the things to this house, this house is worth in the nines. So they're making at least $100,000 immediately. But you're not looking for a flip. You're
Right.
looking for a home.
Right.
So this might not be the house for you. All that said, let's just keep going as though this is the house that you want to try to purchase. What other contingencies are important to you?
Well, the financing contingency.
Okay,
I
talk to me
just
about that.
don't know what's going to happen between now and next month. What if we need the money? What if I get sick or my husband gets sick and we need that money? There's been some, issues going on medically that we're not sure if something that were to happen, would insurance cover that? So I just want to make sure. And what if I can't sell my home? I didn't want to put it on the market before I bought the place because I'd like to move out and get this other house ready and then fix the other home to get it ready.
Okay.
But what if something happens and I can't sell the home in between? Then what's going to happen? So I really want to have a financing contingency.
Okay, so do you remember what we talked about what a financing contingency covers and what it doesn't cover?
No.
Okay, the financing contingency covers the lender not being able to do your loan anymore through no fault of your own. So if we have a major blow up in the economy and suddenly they can't do financing anymore. COVID's a great example where everything had to halt for a second because banks weren't able to actually function. In fact, they all ended up functioning, but sometimes that had to be extended. What it does not cover is anything that is within your control or in your purview that keeps you from getting the loan. Are we making this contingent on the sale of your house?
No.
Okay, so the financing contingency absolutely doesn't cover that. So if that's an issue, you got to go ahead and get that home sold first. So let's talk about getting your house on the market. But that you're signing a contract that says that you are in no way contingent on the sale of your house. The financing contingency doesn't cover that. A health issue, something like that, that's not the bank not being able to do the loan. That's a change in your condition that makes you not able to get the loan. So if you're worried about what might happen between now and settlement, then the financing contingency, that's not an out. That needs to be a letter from the lender saying, I'm so sorry, we thought we could do the loan, we now can't do the loan because of something that we didn't know about our ability to finance you, not the other way around. So let's go back to this, because we know in this situation, the lender has said, absolutely, we can do your loan, right? But the lender doesn't cover you if you, and neither does this contingency, if you make a change or there's a change in your situation that now you can't get the loan. So you're clear on what it covers and what it doesn't cover?
Yeah, so what would happen if I didn't have the financing contingency and something happened where we found out we needed an extra $50,000 to, help with a treatment and whatnot?
Then you're in default. And you're in default whether you have the financing contingency or not.
Okay.
Because you said that given your situation, you could get the loan and you had the wherewithal to get this house. The financing contingency does not let you back out of a
Okay, it
contract.
wouldn't change
It would not.
it on their end.
It would not.
Okay.
No. If someone died, that would be a different situation, and then that's different because now there is through nothing of your own. But if your financial situation changes, that the financing contingency doesn't cover that, because it's kind of like you've taken a snapshot of this moment in time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what the seller has to go on. They're taking their house off the market based on what you're telling them you're able to do right now. So I just want to be super clear on that. Does that change your thoughts about including a financing contingency?
Well, what would you suggest, knowing what I'm worried about?
I would suggest that we get a house that is not so competitive.
Okay.
So I hear your concerns, but I also want to
Yeah.
make sure you're super clear that no matter what you purchase, the financing contingency is not there so that you can back out because you don't sell your house, or because now you suddenly figured out or feel more comfortable about having more money. That doesn't work. So I just want to make sure are you clear on the
Yes.
financing? Great, okay. The inspection, on the other hand, I hear you saying you're scared to buy a house without an inspection, and luckily we're in a market where most of the time you actually can have an inspection these days, but not on a house like this one. So my advice to you would be, either we don't pursue this house, or the only other thing you could do is come in super strong on price. If you want to do that, maybe that would knock their socks off, and they go, okay, well, for that price, we'll roll the dice on an inspection or a financing contingency.
Okay.
So that's another option. But so I think your options are: you go in contingency free, you go in super, super high and put the contingencies in you feel comfortable with, or we don't do anything on this house and we wait for a house that has the ability for you to create an offer with all the things that you feel need to be in place.
Okay, that sounds good. I like the way you explained it.
Okay, great. So what we're trying to do there is really educate the client, which is really our first responsibility as their representative, is to help them understand what they're signing. And we've had a situation recently where there was a person who thought they could exit a contract on the financing contingency just because they kind of felt like it, and that's not the case. And remember, and everybody's forms are different and everybody's states and jurisdictions are different, but remember, your client is signing something that is a legally binding document. So we need to make sure they understand what they're signing. And when I hear things like, well, what if I can't sell my house? I'm like, giant red flags are going off in my mind. And I need to sit back down and have the conversation with the person and say, hold on, if you're telling me that if you can't sell your house, you're not buying this house, then you must make this contract contingent on the sale of your home. Otherwise, you're acting in bad faith, which is the least of it. It actually could even be fraudulent. You're now having somebody take their house off the market, saying you don't need to sell your house, but now actually in the background you do need to sell your house. And that kind of worked in the old market because everything was selling so quickly. They were like, well, I can sell my house, but you got to really explain that if you don't, you're still buying this house. You're still completely responsible for buying this house. There is no way to get out unless you're contingent on selling your home. And still in this market, the chances of getting that accepted, whether it's a house that's been languishing or not, very slim because of how things have changed.
Did you know that 63% of sellers and buyers choose their agent based on local proximity? That's why farming, or geofarming, is such a proven method for long-term success in real estate. If you've been considering becoming a farmer or a geofarmer in your market, but not sure how to get started, check out Farming for Real Estate Agents. This blueprint will walk you through exactly how to choose a geofarm area, how to figure out by running some calculations whether the farm area that you're selecting can support your goals, and will help you track your return on investment. You'll also hear from locally famous farmers who have already dominated their market shares, so you can R&D their secrets and dominate the area that you choose to geofarm.
So hearing all that, knowing the client, how do you think they would have reacted?
Well, it's funny you had mentioned the other thing about finding a home so they wouldn't have to do those things, because that is exactly what I tried to do. I actually, during the same time that we were looking at this, went ahead and had letters sent to the same block to all the townhomes, asking if any of the units that were very similar to that would be open.
But they'd be $200,000, $300,000 more.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I did present all the options to her. She wasn't ready to go in contingency free in either way. She did offer over ask, but I know that somebody else came in even more than we did. I think
And
we offered
contingencies.
we offered a good amount over ask,
Yeah.
but with contingencies,
Right.
with somebody else, I just know had a stronger offer
Yeah.
and a quicker closing date.
Right.
I do know that,
Yes,
even
that
though
was really
we
important.
did
too.
work on the closing date.
Yeah.
We did try to do it in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
but somebody else can close faster than that.
Correct. Yeah, and that's,
So that's
people who are cash or investors.
Exactly. We can't
Yeah.
compete with cash. And guys, we see that all the time here. Cash offer, close,
Mhm.
in 7 days,
Yeah.
10 days.
Yeah.
So
It still happens, and it's so interesting that it shows you that when you put something out into the market right now that is really desirable and positioned in a way that people go, wow, then Tina's getting a call. That is still selling the way that it would have in the old market. And
yeah.
this house, I was in there too.
Mhm.
It looked super banged up. I mean, it needed a lot of
Yes,
TLC
yes.
cosmetically. It needed a lot. So it really was the right buyer, but that's the kind of house that investors like salivate over because they see it as such an opportunity. I mean, I thought about buying it myself as a flip because
Right.
it was that enticing. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip around and talk about this from the seller's perspective a little bit, because it's interesting that what we're seeing in the market right now has been such a departure from how sellers have perceived the market and how houses have been selling, that we're starting to see sellers get it a little bit. But where it's really tricky is where we had sellers who either started to decide to sell during the old market or were listed during the old market. Here in our area, the inflection point, as I'm calling it, happened in about mid to late June. That's when, if you go back in your MLS, this is a really interesting kind of a exercise for you in your market to do this. Go back to your MLS, go to your market, isolate your market area, and then look to see when all of in ours, the MLS shows up arrows, green up arrows for things that sold above asking, right? So before June, it was everybody was up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, with a few exceptions. And then June into July, you started to see spottiness. You started to see, and even before that a little bit, you started to see no arrow or a few little sprinkling of down arrows. Then it's down arrow, down arrow, down. Everything that's under contract, everything that is active, unless it's just sitting forever, is down arrow, down arrow, down arrow. Tons of price adjustments.
And back on the market.
Or back on the market,
I keep saying back on the market, down arrow, back on the market.
There are markets where the fall through rate is 60% right now. It is crazy. We're not there, luckily, but some of the country is experiencing that. So take that data to your sellers. And if you are already working with sellers that are actively on the market, again, it is your job to tell them the truth about what's happening and to show them what you're telling them is backed up by actual facts and statistics, because people understand that. Some people will hear you verbally, many people will hear you or see you visually, but both is the best mix. So give them the information and then give them your advice about how to proceed. So right now, when I'm talking to sellers, I'm giving them that data. I'm showing them very vividly what the market is doing. And I'll tell you what, there are a lot of agents out there who are going in and only using lagging information to inform their clients. So they're still, I just talked to somebody earlier today who was saying, well, the agent I'm talking to said that probably my house would sell over the weekend. And because she's going on information, the last house that sold in this neighborhood was, it was April. So before their market shifted. This is one of my coaching clients I was speaking to. And she's up against an agent who's telling them, oh no, your house will sell in a weekend, you have to worry about it. It's probably gonna go with 5 or 6 offers over asking price. But what she's using is data from the last home that sold in there, which was April. We're in a whole different market. So we go in, we're the knowledge brokers, we're telling people the truth. People appreciate that. I think there are a lot of agents who are kind of afraid to tell their potential clients or their clients the truth, because sometimes, bad news doesn't feel great to give. But I wouldn't even say it's bad news. It's just the
truth.
Reality, right? And that's what we're hired to do, is give people a clear, truthful picture about what the market is doing, and then help them strategize through giving them options that allow them to achieve their goals given the information that we have. So right now, going in and also telling your sellers, when you hire me, you're going to be informed. I am tracking the market every single day, and here's what my communication strategy looks like. I'm going to give you a video message on Friday letting you know what we have planned for the weekend, kind of summarizing the week before. On Monday, I'm going to give you a full market update report so you can see exactly where you fit in the larger market, how our online traffic is doing, what we've done to market the property, and I'm going to give you a recommendation for a strategy change if I think one is needed at that time. And I'm going to give you a call the next day to walk you through it. We'll talk strategy, see what we need to do in terms of like how the market is shifting, and then we'll make a plan for the coming week. So you're showing them and telling them all of this at the outset, so they're like, oh, you have got it, right? They feel safe because you're in control. Right now, the people who are not doing well are the ones who feel like things are out of control. It's when we can put a process in place that makes them feel informed and in control, that they trust us, they have the confidence in us, and then they'll follow our lead, which creates the action that's needed often to get the home sold, which is very often a price adjustment or reduction, or doing things to refresh the listing. Now, Tina, you were talking to me right before we started the podcast about what you're doing to refresh, because you've got a listing now that has had its bumps, it's had some challenges, it's getting activity now though. And here's the other thing I'm seeing, I don't know about you guys who are watching and listening, but some of the market is actually picking up, and it's weird because we're like at the end of July, almost August. This is generally when the market slows down if like you're in just a regular cadence seasonally. But what we're seeing is listing activity picking up a little bit. And I personally think the reason is that people are getting used to the new normal. People are feeling like, okay, we're not on wobbly ground so much anymore. This is what we're dealing with. I think most people understand when we're in a trend like this, it lasts for like somewhere 24 to 48 months or more. That's the market we're gonna be in for a while. So if they're gonna move, they're not waiting for anything. Nobody thinks the interest rate is going to plummet all of a sudden. Everybody knows, like, this is the interest rate now. We're in this for a while. So if you want to move and your life is affected in some way by moving or not moving, there's no reason to wait anymore. Let's just get out there and make it happen. Again, there's a level of certainty which makes people comfortable in acting. So on your end, you're seeing that activity picking up on this condo, which is interesting because it was kind of deadsville for a while. But tell the people listening what you are doing to keep that listing fresh, because I think it's really smart.
So, and again, I just made this up myself, but what I've been doing is going into my own description. And first of all, I take the description and I take the feedback that I've gotten from people, from other realtors on the reasons why their client didn't pick it. And I'll rewrite my description to either like hit that point exactly or to gear it toward maybe a different style, a different type of clientele. So I'll rewrite it. I take all the feedback and I make changes because I need to inform people of what they're coming to look at, first of all, right? And I want to show it the best way I can. So I rewrite it, and then every week I pop it into ChatGPT after I've done it, and it will rewrite it a little bit even nicer than I done. And I'll flip it and keep it fresh, and I'll change the first picture.
Yes.
I've even done it where I decided one time I'm going to use like a photo shot of the interior of the home, which was the first time I did this, instead of an exterior shot. I've also taken the exterior shot that the photographer gave me and zoomed in and zoomed, in different ways to just make it look fresh and maybe to capture somebody else's eye, somebody who hasn't gotten it.
Smart.
We did do a price reduction, so I know that was another thing. But this is like what I've been doing, and then every time I've done this, I also have a little video too. I still go back to some of the other realtors and just say, hey, not sure if your client's already selected a different home, but in case they're still looking and interested, I just wanted to update you. And then boom, I send them the little video that I did and a highlight that price reduction and whatever it is. And then I even have a description. Because I'm noticing with condos, it's really hard to talk about the condo in just a description. So as soon as a realtor says yes to showing time and I get the pop-up to confirm if they can come in at that time, what I've been doing is sending them, basically instructions on how to make this a seamless tour for themselves and the client. So it actually makes the realtor shine. And realtors keep writing me, thank you so much. You made the tour so great. I so appreciate you. Wow, one even said, you're the best colleague I've worked with. Now they haven't written a contract yet. This is all this
But
week.
it helps. It all helps with the potential.
You know, and because think about it, how many times, I mean, you don't want to show something to your client and not be able to open the door or the code not work.
Yeah.
Right? Or not know where to look for the garage space or the storage. Wouldn't it be so much better if you felt in control and that you knew in front of your client what you're showing? So I did that, and I also filmed a video to go with it for where things are. And I tell people, please, you know, read all this. This will help make it a seamless tour. And then I follow up with the top. What happens is after they see the unit, I've written another note that says, hey, it's me again. Just wanted to share a little something from my client to yours. And then I made the top 10 reasons why you want to live at this place. And I've taken everything good about this place, the community, the location, the unit itself, and put it into the top 10 reasons really quick. And I send that at the end, hoping if there was another doubt or if the realtor wanted to reiterate this is a message, that would help too.
That's
These are
awesome.
the things I've been doing. I've been making them up and
So good.
trying them.
So
Just
good.
try different things.
You're going above and beyond, and it's so great. And I love what you're saying about using AI to help with this as well. So these are the kinds of like innovations. And as you know, you're talking through this, when I said at the beginning of the podcast, things that are like coming back to me, doing this kind of like a remix of the listing and making sure that you're really reaching out to the agents and making them shine. I love that you use that phrase. And that also sets the stage for a really nice transaction if that person does decide to work. And I think it feels, you know, people always say they remember how you make them feel. You're making them feel important, which makes them be more amenable to working with you and more likely actually to want to work with you, I think. So it's kind of that law of reciprocity. The other thing that I think is important to talk about is as we are navigating this new normal, you know, making sure the client understands all the things that you are doing, especially like with a relaunch refresh. And I kind of want to end on that, I think, which is think about when you are relaunching a listing with a price refresh, all of the things that you're doing. So you just talked through a lot of it. You can go through this transcript and pull out the things that you're doing. But if you guys are, when you're relaunching a listing, if you are getting, you know, doing a photo reshuffle or a photo refresh, drafting an email campaign, redrafting a newsletter or an email blast that goes out to agents that highlights a different feature. If you are, you know, you're highlighting like the top 10 list and sending it to your list of people who have seen the house, making sure that you're personally engaging with every agent that comes through, doing a new social media push, doing a new flyer, doing a new brochure, whatever it is you're doing, make sure your client knows that. And then the other piece I would say is create an SOP for yourself, a standard operating procedure, because this will not be the last time that you have a listing that needs a refresh or a reboot with a new price in this market. So create a checklist or an SOP that you can come back to over and over again, and even, you know, begin at that listing presentation saying, you know, we hope this won't happen, but the market is shifting, so we may need to be nimble and pivot with it. If we do need to make a price adjustment, I have a whole refresh. This is the list of everything that I do when we make that price adjustment. So then they know, okay, again, like, you got me. Like, I'm safe with you. I know that if the price is changing, you're not just going to stick a new price in the MLS, just like sticking a sign out and crossing your fingers. You're doing all these things to keep the listing in front of the likely audience of buyers and agents. That really goes such a long way. And then on those weekly updates, you've got your whole list of things that you have done to remarket that property, to keep it fresh in people's minds. And then remember to tell the story. So the next listing you go on, you can say, or the next conversation you have to have about a potential price adjustment, you can say, so let me tell you about the condo that I had. Here are the things that I did. It had, you know, its bumps. We happened to hit the market exactly as that inflection point was happening. So we did have to make a couple of adjustments. When we made the adjustments, here are the things that I did. So when I make the adjustment for you, I'm going to do the exact same things, and here was the outcome. We got an offer 3 days later. We were under contract the next week. Whatever it is. So always tell like the happy ending of the story so they understand that if they follow that same path, you're going to get them to like the kingdom of Oz that they've been trying to get to. You got the road all paved for them in gold. They just have to follow you there. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing all of that. Really great ideas. Well, I hope that for the person listening, you are taking all of this, you're writing some notes down, rewatch this if you need to, so you get all of the information that we've shared today. We gave you hopefully some tactical things that you can use. If you have questions about any of it for us, I have a market update report that I'm happy to share with you. We can share Tina's list of what she does. Maybe we can share an example of your top 10 list that you send to the listing agents. I think all of that would be so useful. So feel free to reach out to us. You can DM us or you can message us on the platform that you are watching or listening. Please also think about leaving us a review or a rating. If you are getting value from this podcast, we would be so grateful for you telling us what you think, and send us questions, show ideas. We always love to hear from you. Tina, thank you so much again for all of your great wisdom and advice. Thank you for listening. Happy selling. We hope the market is treating you kindly and that you are growing some new skills as you navigate this new normal. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.